today I'm very, very excited to have the opportunity to introduce our speaker, which is Charlene Quint. She is a family law attorney in the Chicago area who focuses her practice on helping women overcome domestic abuse. She wrote the multiple award-winning, groundbreaking book, Overcoming the Narcissist, Sociopath, Psychopath, and Other Domestic Abusers to help victims of domestic abuse become the fearless victors they were designed to be. And if you saw the table out front, you saw how thick that book was. That was a feat in itself, right? She is the founder of Abuse Care, which is abusecare.org, if anyone wants to look it up, a non-denominational, faith-based organization designed to provide hope and healing to women on their journey from victim to victorious, and to educate and equip businesses and faith communities in caring for these victims of domestic abuse. She's a certified domestic violence professional, an advocate for victims of abuse, a facilitator of support groups, and a domestic abuse survivor. She has spoken for thousands of people, TEDx events, conferences, events, universities, and she's been interviewed on numerous TV shows, radio shows, and podcasts. She's the recipient of the Augustana College Alumni Humanitarian Award for her work with survivors of domestic abuse. So, as you can probably guess, she has helped many women leave, heal, and become the strong, victorious women they were meant to be. We are very honored and lucky to have her here today, so let's give her a huge, warm Woman in Business welcome, Charlene Quint.
Just want to make sure we're on here. April 6, 2012 was my Independence Day. That's the day I decided I would no longer be subject to my husband's daily abuse. So I packed an overnight bag, I put it in the trunk of my car, and I drove away like I was going to work. I went into hiding for 2.5 years. My name is Charlene Quint, and I have the privilege of serving as a family attorney, the facilitator of multiple support groups around the country, and the author of a comprehensive award-winning book to help survivors of domestic abuse become the strong, victorious women they were designed to be. We all go through adversity in life, and no one gets through this life unscathed. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, or struggling with a medical condition, or a financial mess, or a legal mess, a child gone astray, or a toxic relationship. We all face challenges, and how we face those challenges show us who we are, they define us, and they lay the trajectory for the future. But when life looks so dark that we can't see the light, how do we face those challenges and come out victorious on the other side? How do we identify those challenges? How do we overcome them? And how do we recover and heal and reclaim our positivity and become the strong, fearless women that we were meant to be? And maybe use that adversity as a springboard for change to help others and even forge a new career. For me, domestic abuse was my life challenge. And the lessons that I learned on my journey overcoming domestic abuse can be applied to anyone's journey to overcome challenges that you may have in adversity. So let's start with the big picture. Domestic abuse is the most misunderstood, silenced epidemic of our time. 35% of women will suffer rape, stalking, or severe physical abuse. And up to 48% of women will experience coercive control or emotional verbal abuse. Around 70% of people who abuse a partner will also abuse children. Over 90% of abusers are men. Domestic abuse costs the United States $8.3 billion a year, $5.8 billion in medical costs, and $2.5 in lost productivity. It affects victims and it affects their employers. So those numbers are overwhelming. But look around you. Nearly half of us have gone through a toxic relationship. And the other half knows someone who has. My clients include professionals, educated women, nurses, business women, doctors, professional athletes, and even one clinical psychologist. Abuse can happen to anyone. So if you are one of the nearly half of women who've gone through an abusive relationship, what do you do about it? So many people in abusive relationships don't even recognize that they're in abuse. So that's the first step, to actually recognize you're in abuse. And then you need to remove yourself from that, because the other side is not going to change. But how do you do that? That's hard. On average, a woman leaves her abuser 7 times before she leaves for good. And once you leave, how do you recover? How do you become whole? So that's what I'm here to talk about. And here's what I've found. People who recognize, reject, and replace lies with truth will recognize, remove, and recover from abuse. I call these the 3 R's of truth and the 3 R's of abuse. And for those who struggle with a different type of challenge, the same principles hold true. People who recognize, reject, and replace lies with truth will recognize, remove, and recover from whatever adversity that you happen to be going through. So to offer some encouragement, I'm going to share some of the lessons that I learned on my journey from victim to victorious, because mine is the journey of everyone who's decided to break the chains of abuse and live in freedom. First, let's talk about recognizing abuse. What are some of the lies that I and so many people in toxic relationships believe that keep them from recognizing abuse? And what's the truth? So first, let's talk about emotional and verbal abuse. My former husband did things that were intentionally cruel and then claimed he never did them. That's called gaslighting, but I didn't know the term. He accused me of things that he did, that he was guilty of himself, like lying and being vindictive. That's called projection, but I didn't know that term either. He made hundreds of threats to divorce me. He raged at the drop of a hat. He never wanted to resolve a conflict. He only wanted to win. He never admitted he was wrong. He always blamed somebody else. He had no empathy for others, and he was extremely selfish and entitled. But here's the lie. I thought abuse was only hitting. And here's the truth. Abuse is about power and control. And all these are examples of emotional and verbal abuse, and that happens in every abusive relationship. And then there's financial abuse. My husband coerced me into signing a 28-page prenuptial agreement the day before the wedding, after he convinced me to quit my job as a CFO, when I had a 5-year-old to support and a mortgage payment to make. And after that, I had no access to what would be called marital funds. We never had a joint account. I had to bring receipts to get reimbursed for expenses. I didn't even know the term financial abuse. But here's the truth. Financial abuse occurs in 99% of abusive relationships. In healthy marriages, spouses treat each other as equal partners, with equal decision-making, with access to resources. Now, I'm not against prenuptial agreements. I met a fellow attorney here somewhere. But you don't do it so one side's under duress. Money is power. Abusers know that. And we need to know it too. And then there's physical abuse. My husband dumped me out of the car in Chicago. Hello? There we go again. Yeah, okay. He dumped me out of the car in Chicago at 2 a.m. after a company Christmas party with only an evening gown on. I had no cash, no credit card, no cell phone, and no coat. I walked miles through the snow to find a place that was open. They let me use the phone so I could call a cab and make it home. The next day, he acted like nothing had happened. We never spoke of it. When I was pregnant and in labor, and when I had diverticulitis and needed to go to the ER, he actually put me in the back of the car and went shopping. Yes, shopping. For new TV, a new video recorder, new floor tiles, turning a 10-minute trip to the hospital into a 3-hour ride. But one of my clients actually gave birth at home because her husband refused to take her to the hospital. So what were the lies that we believed? Again, we thought abuse was only hitting. But here's the truth. Clever abusers don't leave bruises. But they put you in danger, and they take advantage when you're most vulnerable. And physical abuse happens in 98% of abusive relationships. Oh, here we go again. It was nice. And what about... Hi there. Are you helping us out? Oh, no. Okay. And what about spiritual abuse? Who even knows about that? Whenever I respectfully asked my husband to change his behavior, he pulled the church card. Oh yeah. You have to forgive and forget. You can't hold on to the past. God hates divorce. Love means staying married no matter what. I hadn't even heard of spiritual abuse. But here's the truth. Spiritual abuse happens whenever someone twists your faith or your scripture to keep you in abuse and keep you there. And then there's sexual abuse. My husband demanded sex and badgered me until he got it. He became addicted to porn, and he recreated the scenes in his porn movies. He tied me to the bedposts with belts. He took videos and photos. He degraded and humiliated me. I felt like a prostitute. He demanded sex when my dad died, when we had a massive house fire, and when I was late for work. When I respectfully declined, he raged at me. I can have sex with anyone I want, anytime I want, anyhow I want. And here's the truth. Sexual coercion, when someone pressures or tricks and manipulates you to having sex, is nearly universal in abusive relationships. And marital rape is real. Rape occurs in 68% of abusive relationships, and 80% of the times it's repeated again and again and again. Healthy partners treat each other with respect. They are giving, not demanding. They try to make the other person loved and cherished. When I asked my husband, hello? Okay. When I asked my husband of 20 years to get counseling, he mocked me. It's not that bad. If it was that bad, you would have left 10 years ago. And instead of counseling, he raped me every day for the next 2 months to show he was in charge until the day I left. That was the last straw. After I recognized, rejected, and replaced lies with truth, I was able to recognize that actually I was in an abusive relationship and I had to do something about it. So what lies have you believed that have kept you from recognizing what you're in? We hate to admit something is wrong, don't we? Because then we need to take action. Is it a child that's gone off course? Is the inventory in the bank accounts or your business suffering? Do you have a toxic employee that is causing problems? Do you have a loved one that needs medical care? What's the truth that you need to recognize? So the next step to freedom is removing yourself from abuse. Let's look at some of the lies that I believed and so many of my clients believed about leaving, and what's the truth. I prayed for a change in my husband's heart for 20 years and asked him to get counseling. So what were the lies? Well, one lie, I believe, that was that God would magically zap him into being good. But here's the truth. Abusers don't get zapped into being good. But victims are equipped with strength to escape. I always tell my clients, Leaving abuse is like the Exodus story. Pharaoh's heart wasn't changed, but Moses and the people of Israel were equipped to escape from Egypt through the desert and into the promised land. And that's the story of every woman escaping domestic abuse. Another lie I believed was that my husband would change with counseling, but here's the truth. Abusers rarely change because they don't want to change. And abuse escalates over time. So if you stay, it only gets worse. And I believed the lie that my high-maintenance alpha persona husband, that he was really a decent person underneath all of that. After all, he was so nice when we were dating, but here's the truth. Abusers are predators. They target women who are amazing and kind and lovely and giving and forgiving. They pretend to be Prince Charming when they're dating to get women emotionally and financially hooked. Professionals call this the love bombing stage of an abusive relationship. And when an abuser convinces a woman to get married or have a baby or buy a house together or go into business together, they've got you. And then they move into the devaluation stage. That's where the abuse begins. And finally, when their target is no longer useful to them, they throw her out like an old piece of kitchen appliance and replace her with a new one. And that's called the discard stage. What are some other lies that women tell themselves? I can't leave, no one will love me. But the truth is, that's what abusers always say to keep you from leaving. In fact, you are amazing. And there is someone good out there who will love you for you, not for how you can serve them. I can't leave, I'm going to be a bag lady. The truth is, you're smart. You're resourceful. You'll go to school. You'll get a job. You'll start a company. You'll reinvent yourself, and you will blossom and thrive. I can't leave. God will be mad at me if I divorce. Studies show that women of faith stay in abusive marriages much longer than people who do not identify with a faith. And here's the truth. We are meant to be in loving, healthy relationships. If your partner has broken their marriage vows and is intent on destroying you, you have no obligation to stay. That's not even a marriage. I can't leave. My marriage books tell me if I do X, Y, and Z, he will change. I hear the giggles, right? But here's the truth. Marriage books don't apply to abusive marriages. Books about abuse apply to abusive marriages. Taking advice from a marriage book when you're in an abusive marriage is like taking an aspirin and expecting it to cure cancer. I can't leave, I need to stay for the kids. But here's the truth. Kids learn abuse from their parents. Boys raised in abusive homes are 10 times more likely to become an abuser, and girls are 6 times more likely to choose an abusive partner. And it gets passed down from generation to generation until someone stands up and says, it stops with me. So when I finally recognized and rejected and replaced those lies with truth, I was able to remove myself and leave my abusive marriage. The truth had set me free. So what are the lies that you believe that keep you in adversity? And what's the truth you need to understand to overcome or remove the problem? Does your child need counseling or maybe even rehab? Do you need to investigate your shrinking inventory or that bank account at your business? Do you need to terminate that toxic employee? Do you need to intervene and take your loved one to the doctor? What's the truth? But getting free is not the end of the story. People need to recover and heal so they can be the person that they were meant to be. So what are the lies that I and so many people believed about recovery? And what's the truth? Many people tell themselves, I'll never be healed and whole. I'm ugly. I'm unlovable. These are lies their abuser told them. But here's the truth. Your abuser is a liar. His opinions don't count. You will heal when you make it your top priority. Let me remind you of who you are. You are wonderful. You are one of a kind, meant to give this world something that nobody else can give. That's the only opinion that counts. Another lie I believed. I'm a good person, so I should try to be friends with my ex. But here's the truth. To heal, you must have no contact with your abuser, or as little as possible if you have kids together. Contact with an abuser is like a razor blade against a finger. Every time that razor blade touches a finger, it's going to cut you. Here's another lie I believed. People will support me. I'm the victim here. He's the abuser. Unfortunately, our sound has just gone off again. Oh, here it comes back. Unfortunately, the truth is that many people will side with an abuser, not the victim. Why? He knows your relationships are important to you, especially your kids. So he started a smear campaign to turn them against you. He's played the victim. He's lied, and he wants to destroy you. Usually, kids come around when they say that you are the healthy one and your abuser is not. And be prepared to upgrade your friends. Surround yourself with good people who are for you. Not everyone is meant to go with you on your journey. I believe the lie that I had to convince people that I was in the right. The truth is, some people will never support you. When we need approval from others, it lets them control us. The most freeing thing I've ever done was when I decided that the only opinion of me that matters is God's opinion. And he calls me, and he calls you, a masterpiece. I didn't see this coming. So I believed the lie that I didn't have what it takes to overcome this and thrive. But the truth is, we are all equipped at birth to withstand the storms of life. We all know the Sears Tower. Some people call it the Willis Tower. It's the Sears Tower, right? It's the Sears Tower. And if you've ever been up there when it's storming, you know it kind of moves back and forth. Yeah, it's a little scary. But guess what? The architect knew that we get storms off the lake. And this very tall building was built with that in mind. So if the architect of the Sears Tower knew that storms would come and built that building to withstand the storm, then my storm and your storm is no surprise to the architect of the universe. And we are equipped to withstand the storm and thrive on the other side. And finally I thought, what's my purpose? What am I even alive for? But here's the truth. You have a mission as long as you're on this planet. Mark Twain once said that the two most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. So after going through a divorce from a sociopathic narcissist in 2014, I wasn't even functional. I needed answers. What just happened? And what do I do with all this mess? And what is my purpose going forward? I needed truth. At the time, I worked for a big Chicago law firm as a corporate attorney. So I took a break from work and I did thousands of hours of research. I searched the psychological and medical journals. I read books and articles. I searched the scriptures. I did a lot of praying and a lot of listening. And I found truth. And I found a mission, but it wasn't the mission that I wanted. I felt my time at the big law firm was coming to a close, and I felt restless. I wanted to move from success to significance. I wanted to change lives. I had served on the board of regents of a university, and I taught business law there, and I loved being around and mentoring young people. And I wanted to go back into teaching or administration at a university. Sorry, guys. But God had something else in mind for me. I had a little discussion about this with God, and if you've ever argued with God, you know who wins. So I stepped out in faith to a whole new life. And I have been blessed in ways that I could never have imagined. In 2015, I started a support group with a local domestic violence organization in Lake Forest, where I had lived for 20 years. And yes, I saw friends, and I saw the mothers of my children's friends in that support group. On December 31st, 2015, I left that big Chicago law firm that I had been with for 15 years. And in March of 2016, I started my law practice serving women who are escaping domestic abuse. In 2017, my new husband and I took in our first family escaping domestic abuse into our home, a safe house. I know what it's like when you have to go into hiding, when you have to leave your home. And I felt called to be a safe house for other people that had to do the same. So in 2018, I started another support group in Gurnee. And in 2019, I started abusecare.org to help women heal and to train churches and community organizations on how they should respond to domestic abuse. In 2020, my book came out and was released and became an Amazon bestseller and won several awards. In 2021, during COVID, I started a faith-based support group because our local domestic violence organization shut down the groups during COVID. And in 2023, I gave my first TEDx talk. And in 2024, this year, my publisher will be releasing a curriculum and workbook for support groups because surprisingly, there's nothing out there. And this year, a national denomination asked me to train their clergy and faith-based leaders on best practices when responding to domestic abuse, because it's not taught in seminaries, and clergy need to be better equipped. And I'm in talks with a leading seminary to offer courses in domestic violence in the seminary. Now, that's an answer to prayer. Thank you. Like so many people that have gone through adversity, the most painful time in my life had become the springboard for a new mission. What others had meant for harm was used for good. Having an individual mission statement is imperative to living a life with purpose, especially after a life-changing adversity. Just like every organization has a mission, vision, and value statement, we need a personal mission, vision, and value statement. They become our North Star to guide us. They also give us permission to say no to good things that don't serve our mission. As business women, you know that you have to be laser focused. We need to know the highest and best use of our time, talents, and treasures. And it's the same way with our personal lives. If we say yes to too many things, it dilutes our ability to achieve that purpose. So I can say without guilt, thank you, but I need to decline to requests like baking cookies for the PTA, because I know the best use of my time for those 2 hours is to set a woman free, not to bake cookies. Our life mission is much more than the businesses we own or the career we may have. Each of us are put on this planet to make it a better place for such a time as this. So our businesses may indeed be a facilitator of our mission. And in my case, my mission to help women escape domestic abuse and become the strong, whole, victorious women they are designed to be is facilitated by my legal practice and my writing and my coaching and my speaking. So I ask you, what's your mission? How are you uniquely designed to do something nobody else can do? How can your business facilitate your mission? Usually we find that our experiences, both personal and professional, our passion and our natural gifts and talents combine to give us our mission. I had a wonderful mentor who always told me, God has no wastebaskets. In other words, he will use everything we've been through and everything you have, even the junk, for good. So search your soul and find your mission? What are the lies that you've believed that have kept you from healing and kept you from your mission? And what's the truth that you need to embrace to thrive? When I recognized and rejected and replaced the lies with truth, I was able to recover and heal. And today, by the grace of God, I am strong, whole, victorious. My kids and I now have good relationships, and I remarried a good, kind man who loves and appreciates me and my mission and has embraced it as his own. You see, he had gone through abuse too, and we have healed each other. The truth set us both free. I found that people who recognize and remove and recover from abuse go on to be world changers in their promised land. They go back to college, or they get a master's degree or a doctorate degree. They start their own companies. They start domestic abuse organizations for survivors of domestic abuse. They become teachers and counselors and lawyers, and they find real love and marry good people. That first mom that stayed with us in 2017, she had 2 girls. They were ages 13 and 17 at the time. They asked my husband and I to be their godparents. It took us a nanosecond to say yes. Do you know where they are now? They both got college scholarships. The oldest just graduated with her master's degree. And the youngest, today, she is flying to France on the U.S. Women's Olympic soccer team. And Godmama and Godpapa are headed over to France in a couple days to support Corbin Albert as she represents the United States of America on the world stage in the Olympics. So here's what I know from my own journey and years of working with my clients. If you recognize, reject, and replace lies with truth, you will recognize, remove, and recover from abuse or whatever adversity you may be facing. So what do we do now? If you or someone you know is in abuse, know that there are a ton of steps to getting free, but it starts with 2. 1, believe you can be free. And 2, make a phone call to your local domestic violence organization or to the national hotline, because they have the resources and the experts and the counselors to help you into freedom. But if you're a business owner or a businesswoman who wants to help your women employees and their children in abuse, I have a few suggestions for you too. I'm from Chicago, so I've come up with an easy acronym to remember. BEARS. BEARS. B stands for believe when a woman tells you she's in abuse. Domestic violence is the most reported and the most underreported crime. She has likely been living with abuse for years before she reveals it to you. So just having someone believe her is validating and healing. E stands for educate. Educate yourself and your employees on domestic abuse. The tactics, the effects on women, the effect on your business, options to help her get into safety. Remember that half of your female employees will experience abuse in her lifetime. Domestic abuse thrives in silence. Victims do not feel that they have permission to bring this up. They feel no one will believe them, and they feel they'll be retaliated against. When you, as a leader, bring up this subject, it gives others permission to disclose what they're going through so they can seek help. For you, maybe education includes reading articles and books. There's a pretty good one up there in the lobby if you want to take a look. Maybe it includes taking a class. It will likely include collecting resources for your employees, like how to know the signs of abuse, where to go to get an order of protection, information on your local domestic violence organization, a list of trauma-informed counselors, and attorneys or pro bono legal clinics will take on a legal case. It's likely that someone in your company right now is going through abuse and doesn't know what to do. To educate your employees, you can put these resources in the women's bathrooms. Many companies hold regular anti-harassment, anti-discrimination training. Why not add training on domestic abuse and how to recognize it and how to get help? A stands for hold abusers accountable. As business owners and leaders, we may wonder how we can make a difference, but having a zero tolerance policy regarding abuse by employees is a pretty darn good start. R stands for refer your employees to professionals who are experienced in domestic abuse. Domestic abuse is a specialty, and it involves dealing with an abuser who is not normal and likely has a personality disorder. So it's best to avoid giving advice that you would normally give in a regular, normal situation because it's likely dangerous in an abuse situation. And S stands for support your employees going through abuse and abuse-caused divorce. Well, what does that look like? All right, going from lowest expense to highest expense. Validation, listening, providing referrals, providing brochures in the women's bathrooms costs next to nothing. The next level, maybe providing an escort to her car in the parking lot at night, or prohibiting the abuser from entering your grounds at your business. The next level, time off for going to court, which by the way is required by law, and moving and dealing with crazy. Time off for those things that she's going to have to do. But if you really want to be on the leading edge of supporting abuse victims, establishing benefits for employees like an emergency relief fund for moving and legal bills and medical expenses caused by abuse. Abusers are notorious for hating to pay maintenance and child support, so maybe establishing a scholarship fund so that your employees' kids can participate in worthy activities and have a little help with their college education. Yeah, it costs a little more, but you will have a loyal, productive employee because of it. And finally, if you're struggling to overcome life-challenging adversity, I'm going to give a couple suggestions for homework. Take a clean piece of paper and draw a line down the middle of it. On the left side, write down all the lies that you've believed that have kept you from recognizing the adverse situation you're in, that have kept you stuck, that have kept you from healing. And on the right side, next to the lies, write down the truth next to each one. Now cross out that lie and say the truth out loud until you believe it. Post those truths, if you must, on sticky notes or whatever you have around so you can see them every day. Say them out loud. Studies say that saying positive truth out loud changes how we think, which changes how we act, and that changes our lives. So what are those truths, some of them, that we may need to say out loud to ourselves every day? Well, they may sound like this. I am strong, and I am courageous. I have what it takes. I am worthy of respect. I am successful and prosperous. I am joyful. I am loved, and I love well. I am brave and well able to conquer this. I am wise and smart and healthy. I'm blessed and a blessing to others. I am an overcomer. I am fearless. I'm not a victim. I'm a victor. I'm a masterpiece. I'm a child of God. When you believe these truths, it changes how you think, and it changes how you act, and it changes how you live. We overcome adversity, and we become the fearless, strong women we were designed to be. The truth will set you free. Your promised land is waiting for you. Thank you.